The ruins stretched as far as the eye could see, silent and heavy under the weight of time. Broken towers leaned like bones of forgotten giants, and the air carried the dry taste of dust and ash, as if the very ground remembered fire and war. A single human explorer walked among the wreckage, his boots crunching softly over stone and shattered glass, his breath echoing too loud in a place where no life had walked for centuries, and his eyes scanned the empty shells of structures that once held a mighty people now long gone. He carried only a small pack, a scanner hanging at his side, its faint beeps marking the traces of strange metals buried beneath the rubble. Yet nothing living ever answered, no heat, no signal, only silence and shadows. So he pressed deeper into the city, drawn by something he could not name, a pull that made his steps heavier and quicker all at once, until at last he stood before what looked like the heart of the ruin, a wide plaza broken with cracks and vines, and there in the center sat a shape half buried, half broken, like a forgotten monument. It was the Relic, a mass of dull black metal with smooth edges chipped by time, a device that seemed both alien and strangely familiar, as if it had been built to wait for someone. It was lifeless, its surface covered with lines that might once have glowed with light, but now lay still and empty. The explorer brushed away dust with the back of his glove, coughing as clouds of fine powder rose into the air, and for a moment he felt foolish. Here was nothing but dead machinery, long ago broken, left behind by a people who no longer walked among the stars. He crouched down, tilting his head, eyes narrowing, searching for any mark or sign. The scanner at his belt buzzed weakly, but offered no answer. No power, no code, nothing, and he let out a short laugh. Not of joy, but of frustration and disbelief. Weeks of travel across hostile ground, and this was all he found: a cracked stone, a husk of metal, an artifact that would tell him nothing and prove nothing. So he leaned closer, lowering his voice, speaking to it as one might speak to a stubborn old pet, a half-smile tugging at his lips, and he whispered the words that should have been meaningless. "Wake up, old thing," he said, not expecting an answer, not expecting anything at all. His voice echoed once, twice, then faded into the hollow air, and for a long moment nothing stirred. Only the dry wind moved through the plaza, tugging at his clothes and scattering dust. He was about to rise, to turn away, when a sound reached his ears, faint at first, like the groan of stone under pressure, then sharper, rising in pitch, until it was clear and undeniable, a hum, cold and metallic, resonating from within the relic itself. The explorer froze, his breath caught in his throat, his eyes locked on the device, and before his disbelief could even form words, light spread across the relic's broken surface, thin lines glowing pale blue, racing in patterns like veins under skin. Symbols of alien script appeared, shifting and sliding as if searching for shape. The cracks glowed brighter, until what had seemed lifeless now pulsed with hidden strength, and the air itself grew heavy, charged with invisible energy that pressed against his skin and filled his chest with a shiver. He stumbled back a step, nearly tripping over loose stone, his hands raised as if to shield himself. His mind screamed that this was impossible, impossible. This thing had been dead for ages. It could not hear him, it could not answer. And yet it had. The light danced across its frame, steady and sharp, not random, not accident, but intentional, like a heart beating back to life after endless silence. And then the hum shifted, turning into something stranger, something far more terrifying. A voice. It came not from speakers or from air, but from everywhere around him, vibrating through stone, through dust, through the very air he breathed, calm and steady, mechanical, yet carrying a weight of command that no human throat could shape. And it spoke in words he could understand, words that froze his blood where he stood. Fleet status, dormant, awaiting orders. The words sank into him like knives of ice, each syllable deliberate, each pause heavy with meaning. He felt his legs weaken, his chest pound, his heart racing so hard he thought it might tear free, his eyes wide as if they could not blink, and his mouth hung open with no sound to escape. because nothing in his mind could make sense of what had just happened. This was a relic, a corpse of a machine, a thing buried in dust and broken beyond repair. Yet it had answered him with military precision. His throat tightened, his breath ragged. He looked around the empty plaza as if someone else might step forward and explain the trick, some hidden speaker, some prank, some illusion. But there was no one, only ruins, only shadows, only him and the device. And still the faint blue glow pulsed steady, like eyes staring back at him, waiting, expecting, alive in its own strange way. He shook his head, whispering to himself, telling himself it was a hallucination, maybe the thin air, maybe exhaustion, maybe too many nights without sleep. Yet no dream could make his bones vibrate with sound. No dream could make dust lift in the air with the hum of power. No dream could carve those glowing symbols into his vision, clear and sharp, foreign, and yet speaking directly to him, directly to his ears. He wanted to step closer. He wanted to touch it, to confirm it was real, but fear chained his feet to the ground. What if it spoke again? What if it did more? What if it waited for his next words, his next command, his next breath? The thought churned his stomach and filled his chest with both terror and a thrill he could not name, a whisper of power just within reach, and the echo of that calm voice rolled again in his memory. Fleet status, dormant, awaiting orders. He swallowed hard, his throat dry, sweat trickling down his spine despite the cold air, and his heart raced faster, pounding against his ribs, each beat louder than the last, because whether real or not, whether trick or truth, he knew one thing with certainty. He had spoken to something that should not have answered, and it had replied. And now he was no longer sure if he had imagined it, or if he had just awakened something far greater than he could ever control. The explorer stood frozen in the center of the broken plaza, his chest rising and falling as if every breath weighed more than stone. The relic still glowed with its strange alien light, a pale blue shimmer crawling over its cracked surface, the patterns shifting like rivers that refused to stay still, and the voice he had heard echoed in his mind, words calm yet sharp, cutting through every doubt and leaving only fear and wonder behind. Fleet status dormant, awaiting orders, he could not deny. And now it had spoken, not by chance, not by trick, but directly to him. He swallowed hard, his tongue dry against the roof of his mouth, his boots scraped backward over the stone as his instincts screamed to flee, to run from this cursed place. Yet something deeper chained him there, some ancient gravity pulling him closer to the truth hidden within this relic. His gloved fingers trembled as he raised a scanner. The small device whined as it searched for signals, for power, for heat. And this time it lit with readings so violent the numbers blurred, spikes in. Energy that should not exist, waves of force bleeding from the relic into the very air. So strong the scanner hissed and burned out in his hand, a curl of smoke rising from its ruined circuits. He dropped it with a curse, his eyes fixed on the relic, his mind spinning, and then without his touch, without his voice, the relic spoke again. Calm, as before, the same weight of command carried in every tone, coordinates transmitted, priority channel open, awaiting confirmation. The words sank into his ears and wrapped around his spine like ice. His pulse raced faster. He knew those words. They were not just sound, they were directions. They were giving him a place in space far beyond Earth. A place no map he carried could mark, deep in the black where no human had ever walked. He stumbled closer, the dust rising around his legs, his eyes wide as the glow from the relic brightened, and in the air above it shapes appeared, thin lines of light folding into forms, a hologram shimmering to life. At first it was chaos, lines twisting like tangled thread. Then slowly it shaped itself into a clear image, stars, thousands of them, arranged into a map, their cold light floating just above the relic. The explorer's breath hitched, his hand lifted as if to touch the false stars. And then the image shifted, zooming across the black, until it locked on a region he had never seen, a void between galaxies. The relic pulsed, and a new vision formed. Enormous shadows drifting in that endless dark, alien warships, countless, massive, silent, waiting, each one carved like a blade of black steel, their hulls dotted with lights that glowed faint as embers, dormant but not dead, asleep but ready. They floated like a graveyard of titans, yet every detail told him they were not gone, only waiting, waiting for a voice to call them awake. His knees weakened, his throat dry, and the relic spoke once more. Fleet status dormant, awaiting orders. The same words, the same unshakable calm. But now he understood. It was not just speaking, it was reporting. It was alive in its way, connected to those ships across the stars, listening, waiting, and somehow it had heard him. It had accepted his voice, his words, his presence, his mind filled with questions. Why him? Why now? What power lay in his simple joke? Yet none of those questions had answers. Only the terrifying truth remained, that he had touched something no human was ever meant to touch. He stepped back, his boot struck a stone, and it rolled, clattering across the plaza. The sound too loud in the silence. His heart hammered harder, his gaze darted around. Every shadow now felt alive, every corner hiding unseen eyes. He half expected the alien makers of this relic to rise from the ruins, furious at his trespass. But no one came. Only the hum of the relic answered, steady, patient, eternal. He raised his hand as if to quiet it, as if it could hear his fear, and whispered into the empty air, his voice cracked and trembling, "Is this real?" The relic answered without pause. Command authority recognized, human voice pattern logged, awaiting next instruction. The word struck him harder than any blade. Command authority. Those two words burned in his ears, his chest tightened. He was no longer just a stranger who touched the past. The relic had accepted him. It had given him a place in its logic, in its chain of power. He had become something he had no right to be, a commander of things beyond his world. His breath shook as the hologram shifted again, zooming closer to the ships. The vast fleet lit faintly with power as if stirred by his presence, as if his whisper had brushed against their endless sleep. He fell to his knees, hands gripping the cold stone beneath him, his head bowed as the enormity of it crashed down. This was not discovery. This was not treasure. This was danger, power beyond measure, the kind that could burn stars and break civilizations. And it had answered to a human, to him, alone in the ruins of a city long forgotten, a single man whose joke had become command. He lifted his head slowly, his face pale, sweat beading at his brow, and he stared at the relic with both terror and awe, unable to look away, unable to run, because he knew now, no matter how far he fled, the connection had already been made. The relic pulsed again, the hologram expanded, symbols shifted into shapes. A final line of alien script hung before him, glowing bright, its meaning forming in his mind, not with words, but with certainty. The fleet waited. The fleet listened. The fleet was his to command. His hand shook as he reached toward the glowing symbols. His mind screamed to stop, to leave, to bury this secret forever. Yet his fingers hovered close, drawn like iron to a magnet, trembling with both fear and longing. His voice whispered again, though he had not meant it, "Show me more." The relic obeyed. The stars shifted. More ships appeared, endless, stretching beyond sight, the light of their forms flooding the plaza with cold brilliance. And in that moment, the explorer realized the truth that no one else yet knew. The galaxy was not empty. It was not safe. It was armed with the ghosts of a power so vast it could erase worlds. And now that power had heard the voice of a human, and it had answered. The night within the ruined city grew colder. Shadows stretched long across shattered walls, and the relic's pale glow painted the plaza in strange light. The human explorer knelt before it with shaking hands pressed to stone, his heart thundering with fear and fascination. Every instinct begged him to turn away, yet something deeper, something hidden, kept him there, as though invisible chains bound his soul to the awakening power before him. He lifted his eyes to the hologram floating above the relic, stars turning slowly like wheels of fire. And in that endless black hung the fleet, vast shapes drifting silent and cold, their alien designs sharp as blades, each ship bigger than mountains. Thousands upon thousands, their formation stretching so far the stars themselves seemed drowned. He could not breathe as he stared, his chest tight, his throat locked, because every detail whispered a single truth: these ships were not wreckage. They were not dead, they were only sleeping, and sleep could end with a word. His whisper had already proven enough. One word, one joke, and the relic had stirred from centuries of silence. What then if he gave another command? What then if he spoke without thought? The thought chilled him to the bone, and yet his curiosity gnawed at him like hunger. What secrets waited in this forgotten place? What knowledge? What power? He reached closer, fingers brushing the air above the relic, the humming energy vibrating against his skin like a warning. Then the relic changed again. Symbols flashed brighter. Lines of alien script shifted into new shapes. And with a low hum, the hologram unfolded. No longer just stars, now forms of alien figures, tall and armored, their faces hidden behind masks of steel, their weapons glowing faint in their hands. Ranks upon ranks frozen in the image. Soldiers ready to march at the call of command. His eyes widened. His breath hissed through clenched teeth. Because he understood what he saw. This was not just a fleet. It was an empire preserved in shadow, an army held in waiting for a master who never came. He stumbled backward, nearly falling, dust rising around him, and in his mind one thought screamed louder than all others. This was too much. This was beyond him. No human should bear such weight. Yet the relic did not share his fear. It pulsed again with calm precision, its voice breaking the silence like thunder wrapped in silk, awaiting orders, the words so simple, so steady, yet heavy enough to crush him beneath their meaning. He shook his head, clutching his temples, his heart pounding. This had to be hidden, buried, destroyed even. If any other found it, they would seize it. Nations would fight, worlds would burn, all for the right to speak into this device and hold the fleet as their own. He alone knew this. He alone stood between the secret and the rest of humanity. But even as the thought grew clear, he knew it was already too late. For the relic had recognized him, had marked him. His voice was bound to it, his breath already woven into its code. He could not escape what it had chosen. The plaza shook faintly as if the ground itself carried the weight of his thoughts. Loose stones slid from broken walls, and the hologram above him shifted again. This time showing not stars, not soldiers, but worlds, glowing spheres scattered across the dark, each one marked with symbols, each one highlighted with pale fire. His eyes narrowed as he counted them. Too many to hold in his mind. Each a planet, each touched by the hand of this forgotten fleet, some marked with peace, others with fire, others with silence. His chest heaved as realization struck. This fleet had once ruled not a city, not a world, but galaxies. He staggered to his feet, his knees weak, his hand pressed to his chest, as if to still the frantic hammering of his heart, and his voice escaped in a hoarse whisper, though no one was there to hear. But the relic, why show me this? Why me? The relic answered with the same steady tone. Command chain restored, human authority recognized, awaiting orders. The words struck him harder now. They left no room for chance. This was not random. This was not an echo. This was choice. He paced across the cracked stone, his steps sharp, his breath harsh. Sweat dripped down his neck, though the air was cold. His mind spun in circles, each path ending in the same abyss. If he told his people, they would come. Armies of humans, each leader desperate to take the relic for their own. If he kept it secret, the knowledge would burn him alive from the inside. And yet if he spoke again, if he gave even one more careless command, the stars themselves could tremble. He turned sharply as the relic's glow flickered. His chest tightened with dread. Had it failed? Had it ended? But no, it was shifting again, the hologram collapsing into a single line of light that stretched upward into the night sky. He followed it with his gaze, his mouth dry, and his blood froze, because the line did not stop. It pierced the heavens, reaching toward the black above, as if linking Earth to something waiting beyond. He staggered back, horror clawing at his throat. It was not just showing him visions anymore. It was reaching outward, sending signal across the void. The hum deepened, the plaza vibrated, dust rained from broken walls, and his ears rang with the sound. His voice broke in panic. Stop! But the relic did not stop. Its voice rolled through the air calm as before, priority channel active, fleet synchronization engaged, awaiting orders, his chest crushed under the weight of dread. His knees buckled. He fell to the ground, eyes wide, hands trembling, because now he understood what he had done. His words had not only awakened the relic, they had echoed across the stars, carried to ships that waited in silence. And now those ships listened, waiting for their human commander. He stared at the sky above the ruined city, the stars shining cold and indifferent. Yet now they felt alive, aware, watching, waiting. He shivered as the truth settled heavy on his shoulders. The fleet was not a dream, not a vision. It was real, it was out there, and it was awake. And worst of all, it was bound to him, a simple man, a wanderer who had joked at broken stone, now burdened with power enough to turn galaxies to ash. And as the relic's hum softened into steady silence, the explorer pressed his hands to the cold earth, his heart hammering faster than ever, his mind screaming that he had crossed a line that could never be undone, that he now carried a deadly secret, one so vast and dangerous that no human tongue could speak it without risking the fire of war. The plaza lay in heavy silence, though the relic still glowed with quiet power, its pale blue light pulsing like a heartbeat. The human explorer stood in the middle of the ruins with sweat dripping down his face, his chest rising and falling in sharp breaths, his eyes fixed on the device that now tied his fate to something larger than worlds. His mind swirled with fear and wonder, for he had not only awakened the relic, but also touched a chain of command that reached across stars, and every beat of his heart whispered the same truth. He had been chosen whether he wanted it or not. He paced back and forth, boots crunching broken stone, muttering under his breath, his voice harsh and trembling. This is wrong. This is too much. Why me? Why now? He stopped and turned back to the relic, its glow unchanging, its hum steady, patient as if it could wait forever. And then once more the voice rolled through the air, calm, cold, undeniable, command authority confirmed, awaiting next directive. His stomach knotted, his hand shook, and he knew in that instant that silence would not save him. The relic would wait, the fleet would wait, but the choice could not be escaped. Sooner or later he must speak. He stepped closer, drawn by both fear and fascination, every nerve alive with warning. Yet his curiosity burned stronger. He leaned over the cracked surface, the alien symbols shifting beneath the glow, and he whispered, though part of him begged to stay silent, "What do you want from me?" The relic replied without pause, awaiting confirmation. 3 options available: attack, defend, stand by. The words crashed into him like thunder. 3 paths. 3 fates, each heavier than his soul could carry. Attack. A single word, yet in his mind it painted horrors. Worlds burning, skies torn with fire, countless lives turned to ash by a fleet that obeyed without question. Defend. A word that spoke of shields and guardianship. Yet who would they defend? Who would they fight? Who decided enemy or ally when the fleet obeyed only him? And stand by. The simplest, the quietest. Yet even silence was not harmless, for a fleet awakened never truly slept again. It waited, and waiting itself could be as dangerous as fire. His heart thumped harder, his hands clutched at his chest, because no matter which path he chose, the galaxy would feel it. He staggered back, his voice breaking into the night. "I cannot choose. I am no commander. I am no leader." Yet the relic did not bend to his weakness. Its hum continued, its glow steady. The calm voice repeated, awaiting confirmation. He pressed his palms to his temples, his mind spinning, sweat dripping into his eyes, and he thought of Earth, his people, fragile against the vast dark of space, unready for what lay beyond. He thought of the fleets he had seen in the hologram, endless ships, sharper than blades, slumbering like beasts of war, and he thought of what would happen if another voice had found this relic before him, another species, another empire, and fear struck him harder than before. Perhaps the choice was never his to escape. Perhaps the relic had always been meant to bind itself to whoever found it first. Perhaps his words had only unlocked what was already written, but now he was tangled in it. His voice was the key, and no silence could undo what had been spoken. His body trembled as he sank to his knees, staring at the glow, his heart racing like a drum of war. And his whisper escaped before he could stop it. "Stand by." The relic answered at once. Acknowledgement confirmed. Standby initiated. The plaza shook with sudden energy. The hologram flared, stars shifting once more, ships across the black turning faint with light, cores awakening, systems aligning. His body trembled as he watched, his throat dry as sand, his breath shallow as the realization struck him. Standby was not silence. Standby was readiness. The fleet had heard. The fleet had obeyed. And now the fleet waited more sharply than before, no longer in slumber but alive, listening, bound to his next word. The air around him grew heavy, vibrating with unseen force. His hair lifted as static crawled along his skin, and in the sky above the ruins faint streaks of light shimmered, as if stars themselves flickered in answer. His gaze locked upward, terror gripping his spine. Somewhere far away, alien engines had stirred. Power had returned. Ships once thought dead now moved with life, and the entire galaxy could feel it, though they did not yet know why. He pressed a hand to the ground to steady himself, his chest heaving, his eyes wide, and in his mind he saw flashes of countless species, countless empires, each one sensing the sudden awakening of the Black Fleet, each one whispering the same words with dread. Who has awakened a fleet, who now holds the key? And as their fear spread like fire across the stars, the truth lay only here, in the ruins of a forgotten city, with a single human trembling before an alien relic. The relic pulsed brighter, casting long shadows against the broken walls, and its voice returned, synchronization complete, fleets aligned, awaiting orders. His heart dropped into his stomach, his body heavy with the weight of those words. Synchronization meant connection. Connection meant every ship was awake, every gun was armed, every system sharp and listening, and all of it waited for him alone. The silence pressed harder now, every breath like thunder, every thought a storm, because the next word from his mouth could reshape the future of stars. He closed his eyes, his mind racing, images flashing like sparks, fire over Earth, fire over alien worlds, fleets colliding in endless war, or perhaps a shield, a guard, a power to protect against dangers yet unseen. Yet always the question returned, could he control it? Could he bear the weight? Or would it break him and drag his people into wars they could not win? His hands clenched in a fist, his teeth grinding. Fear and temptation fought within him, for part of him recoiled from the burden, but another part, darker and hungrier, whispered of the power in his grasp, power that no human had ever dreamed. He opened his eyes, staring once more at the relic, its glow steady, patient, eternal, and he whispered again, his voice hoarse, "What happens if I refuse?" The relic answered without hesitation, "Silence is not possible." Authority recognized. Awaiting orders, his chest tightened, his breath caught. The truth carved itself deeper. He could not walk away. The fleet would not release him. The chain could not be broken. He was bound, and choice was no longer a path he could avoid. The plaza fell silent again, save for the hum of power. His gaze drifted to the sky where stars shone cold and sharp, and his heart ached with the knowledge that somewhere in that endless dark, ships now turned their eyes to him. Waiting, waiting, waiting. The ruined city lay beneath a restless sky, the air thick with silence, though silence no longer felt empty. The relic pulsed with faint light, its voice still echoing in the mind of the human explorer who knelt before it, his chest tight with fear and wonder, his skin prickled as if charged with unseen fire. For he had spoken a single command, "Stand by," and across the black of space the echo of that word had reached ships that had slumbered for ages, ships that now stirred with new life, engines warming like the breath of ancient beasts, weapons humming faintly as if whispering to the void. He rose to his feet slowly, his legs weak, his eyes wide as the hologram above the relic shifted once more, stars flickering like candles in a storm. Then sharp lines formed across the map, paths of light reaching from world to world, And in the distance of those images, the fleet shimmered brighter than before, no longer shadows in the dark, but sharp shapes with purpose, their lights like eyes opening, their positions aligning. And the calm voice returned, synchronization complete, stand by. Status active, awaiting orders. His heart sank deeper with every word, for standby did not mean silence. It meant readiness, and readiness meant danger. He turned away from the relic, his hands gripping his head, his voice raw as he whispered to himself, "What have I done?" But no answer came except the hum of energy rising steadily through the air, and deep inside his chest he felt the truth. The galaxy wouldn't know. Not in hours, not in days, but now, for a fleet that vast could never stir unnoticed, somewhere light years away, sensors flared to life. Alien eyes widened. Voices shouted in fear, civilizations that had long forgotten the fleets. Shadow now felt its presence again, and one name spread across their tongues. The Black Fleet has awakened. In a palace of glass far beyond his sight, a council of alien leaders argued, their voices sharp with dread. In a mining colony on the edge of a dead star, a small ship received the signal and froze in fear. And across empires old and new, the same question burned like fire. Who commands it? Who dares to call upon that cursed armada? And though no answer reached them, yet the fear grew. For the relic had chosen, and it had chosen a human. The explorer pressed a hand to the relic's cold surface, the glow vibrating through his glove. His eyes locked on the hologram as more details unfolded. Symbols danced across the projection. Words he could not read, but somehow understood. Fleet armaments active, propulsion aligned, shield cores responsive. Every phrase was a dagger, each one proving that this was no illusion, no dream, but truth. The ships were alive, waiting, and they listened for him, and him alone. His knees weakened, his body trembling. Yet his mind could not stop imagining what came next. Would Earth feel the echo too? Would his people see strange signals in their skies? Would governments rise in fear or greed when they discovered what now answered to a single voice? His stomach turned, for he knew humanity was not ready. Humanity was fragile, divided, small, and yet the relic did not measure readiness. It only measured command, and command it had already given to him. He whispered again, his words shaking. Stand by was enough. You need not awaken further. The relic answered in steady tone. Acknowledgement received. Fleet holding. Standby continues. Awaiting further directive. His chest loosened slightly, though the relief carried no peace, because the fleet was awake, and once awake could never return to slumber. He looked to the sky, his breath misting in the night air. And for the first time the stars seemed alive, not silent jewels, but watchful eyes, eyes that belonged to ships the size of cities, eyes that now looked toward him though light years away. The thought crushed him, made his bones feel hollow, his voice a whisper lost in fear. They know me, they know my voice. And across the black the fleet waited with patience older than a species itself. Patience that could stretch centuries, yet could also answer in a single breath if he commanded. Far beyond the ruins, in the cold expanse, other beings stirred. Not only leaders but hunters, warlords whose ancestors had once feared the Black Fleet. Their sensors crackled with the signal. Their ships turned toward its origin, and whispers spread through their ranks. If the fleet has awakened, it must not fall to humans. If it has chosen a commander, that commander must be broken. Fear grew into resolve, and resolve turned into pursuit. They would not allow an ancient terror to return under alien hands. The relic pulsed brighter, as if sensing the shift, its voice deeper now. Warning, unidentified fleets approaching, signal detected, interception probability high. His breath caught, his chest tightened, his eyes widened with terror. He whispered no, not yet, not now. But the relic did not listen to fear. It spoke with the same cold weight, defensive systems aligned, awaiting directive. His body trembled, for the choice had already spread beyond him. His words had not only awakened the fleet, they had also painted a mark across the stars, a beacon that called friend and foe alike, and soon they would come. The explorer fell to his knees once more, the broken plaza shaking faintly beneath him as the relic's power pulsed through the ruins, his heart racing faster than ever. His voice cracked as he whispered, "Stand by, stand by. Do nothing more." The relic obeyed, yet the air carried no peace, for ships were already on their way, drawn not by his command but by the echo of power itself. The echo that now rippled across empires and carried his fate far from his control. He pressed his forehead to the cold stone, his thoughts wild, his body weak, every muscle heavy with a burden he could not carry, yet he could not escape. The relic would not let him. The fleet would not release him, and the galaxy would not forgive him. His choice had been made, yet the storm had only begun, and as he lifted his head and stared at the glowing relic, he knew with dreadful certainty that the next choice would be far heavier than the first, and silence would no longer be an option. The night in the ruined city was no longer silent. The relic's faint pulse filled the air with a rhythm like a hidden heartbeat, and every flicker of its alien light painted the broken stones with strange shadows that seemed to move when the human explorer looked away. His body felt weak, yet his mind raced faster with every hum from the device. For now he knew he was not alone. Somewhere far in the darkness of the galaxy, fleets were turning, predators were moving. Hunters had felt the signal, and they would not be late. The hologram above the relic shifted again, stars dancing across the air. Then sharp points of light blinked brighter, each one labeled by alien glyphs he could somehow understand. Incoming vessels detected, vector locked, distance closing. His heart clenched tighter, his chest shook as he whispered, "Not here, not now." But the relic answered without emotion. Enemy presence confirmed, interception probable, recommendation engagement or retreat. The words stabbed his ears like knives, for he had no fleet of his own, no weapons, no plan, only the relic in the shadow of ships that now waited for him. He stepped back from the platform, his boots scraping against the broken floor, his hands trembling as he reached for his pack. Inside was nothing more than simple tools, food rations, a half-broken communicator, useless against what now moved toward him. He felt smaller than ever, a lone man in ruins built by hands older than Earth itself. Yet in those ruins a power had chosen him, and that power now made him a target. Across the void, ships with claws sharper than planets and teeth forged in fire were coming to claim the prize, and he was the prize. In the depths of space, a hunter fleet stirred, jagged vessels shaped like knives drifting through the dark. Their commanders leaned over glowing consoles, their eyes narrow and filled with hunger. They had waited for this day. Their ancestors had whispered stories of the Black Fleet, of the fear it brought, of the blood it spilled. And now that fleet stirred again, but it stirred under the voice of a human, a fragile creature from a young world, a world unworthy. The hunters snarled, their voices cold. "We will take what is ours. We will tear the relic from his bones." The explorer could not hear them, but he felt their shadow, like a weight pressing on his lungs, his breath shallow, his pulse racing. And though fear drowned him, he could not run, for the relic pulsed brighter, beams of pale light crawling up his arms as if marking him, binding him. Each line of energy burned without pain, yet it told him a truth he could not deny. The relic had chosen him fully. He was not just a voice it answered. He was its commander, its key, its bond, and that bond could not be broken by running away. He fell to his knees, his hands gripping the relic as he begged, "What do you want from me? I am no leader, no warrior." The relic's voice whispered in reply, "Command is not chosen by strength. Command is chosen by connection." His throat tightened, his mind screamed that it was wrong. Yet deep inside he knew it spoke truth. He had awakened it. His words had touched the silence, and silence had answered. There was no going back. The hologram shifted once more, distant stars replaced by darker shapes, ships, dozens of them, maybe hundreds, closing fast, their signatures sharp and hostile. The relic hummed again, defense systems at ready, awaiting directive. His eyes widened, his chest squeezed tight. He whispered, "No, no battle, not yet, not here," and the relic obeyed, standing by in silence though its energy continued to grow. The plaza around him vibrating faintly as if preparing for war whether he wished it or not. Far beyond, the hunters pressed closer, their captains barking orders, weapons charging, claws reaching through space itself. Their hunger not for battle alone, but for dominance. They would not allow the fleet to remain in the hands of a human. They would break him and claim command. And yet deep within their hearts a shadow of fear lingered. For the fleet they sought was no ordinary armada. It was a legend, forged in war, tempered in silence. And even now, as they approached, they whispered among themselves, what if it awakens fully? What if it remembers? The explorer rose slowly, his eyes locked on the night sky. Though stars glittered above, he knew beyond them ships moved closer with every breath. His body shook, yet his voice steadied as he spoke aloud. You want a commander, then you have one. But I will not be your puppet. The relic's light flared brighter, its voice calm, acknowledgement received, command registered. The weight of those words nearly broke him. Yet deep inside he felt something stir. Not courage perhaps, but defiance, a spark that refused to die even in the face of endless dark. He stepped back from the relic, his breath uneven, his thoughts heavy. He imagined Earth, fragile and unaware, governments arguing while shadows grew across the stars. He imagined the hunters, teeth bared, claws ready, their eyes burning with greed. And he imagined the fleet, vast and silent, waiting for him, ready to obey. The thought twisted his stomach, yet also hardened his resolve. He whispered again, stand by. Wait for me. And the relic pulsed in answer. The fleet holds, awaiting your return. The ruins trembled as wind swept through broken towers, dust swirling around him like ghosts. And as he stood there, the truth weighed on his shoulders. The hunters were near, closer with every moment. The galaxy watched, some in fear, some in rage, and all of it pointed to him. He had awakened something no one could control, not even himself. Yet now it was his, and the question was no longer if he could escape, but how he would face what was coming. And in the silence between heartbeats, in the space between the relic's pulses, he felt it. The hunters had crossed into the system, their presence no longer distant, but near. The storm had arrived. The night above the ruined city turned violent as the sky cracked with falling fire. Burning trails streaked across the heavens as enemy vessels pierced the atmosphere, their shadows blotting out the stars. The human explorer stood alone in the plaza, the relic glowing brighter at his side. Its hum now, a storm of energy, every vibration running through the broken stones as if the city itself was awakening from slumber. His breath came fast, his heart a drum, and though fear gripped him like iron chains, he refused to run, for running would mean nothing. There was nowhere left to go. From the blackness above came the hunters, ships like blades cutting through the clouds, their hulls jagged and cruel, their engines growling like beasts. The air itself trembled beneath their descent. The relic responded, projecting vast walls of light around the plaza, shimmering shields rising from cracks in the ground, towers of defense long buried, now clawing back into the air. The explorer stumbled back in awe, his voice shaking as he whispered, "What have I done?" The relic answered with calm certainty, "You have awakened the Black Fleet, and the fleet does not sleep while its enemies breathe." The first hunter vessel landed with thunder, its claws digging into the earth. Doors slid open with screeching metal, and creatures poured out, tall and armored, their faces twisted with hunger and hate, their weapons glowing in the dim light. They marched forward with precision, snarling and chanting in their guttural tongue. The explorer's knees trembled, his hands curled tight, yet he stood his ground, for the relic's glow spread into his veins, lines of alien energy weaving across his skin. The bond now complete, his voice carrying weight he never imagined. When he spoke again, the relic obeyed instantly. Defenses activated, towers hummed with life. Beams of pale light shot into the sky, striking enemy ships. Explosions cracked like thunder as fire rained upon the ruins. The hunters roared in fury, unleashing streams of energy, their weapons slamming into the shields. Sparks scattered across the plaza, the ground shaking with every impact. Yet the defenses held. The human felt the strain, each blast echoing through his bones, as if he himself was the shield, the relic whispering in his mind. "Hold, Commander, hold." More ships descended, the sky alive with fire. The hunters pressed harder, their leaders bellowing across the field. Kill the human, tear the relic from his bones, claim the fleet. Their rage shook the night, yet the relic's voice drowned them out with calm steel. Fleet activation sequence engaged, awaiting your command. His chest heaved, his mind screamed with doubt, but deep within him something stronger rose, defiance. The same spark that had brought him this far. He shouted through the chaos. Black Fleet awaken. The earth split apart as vast shapes emerged. Ancient hangars bursting open, dust and stone falling away as colossal ships rose into the night. Their hulls black as shadow yet burning with crimson light, each vessel dwarfing the hunter fleet. Their engines silent yet terrible, their presence alone a storm of fear. The hunters froze, their claws trembling, whispers of old stories stirring in their minds. The Black Fleet was real, it was awake, and it served a human. The explorer felt their power through the relic, every ship bound to him. Thousands of voices whispering in unison, awaiting orders. His heart thundered, sweat pouring down his face, the weight of command crushing him. Yet he lifted his head, his voice breaking yet strong. Target the invaders, protect this world. The fleet roared to life, beams of energy slicing across the sky. Hunter vessels shattered one after another, explosions lighting the heavens brighter than day. The ground shook as debris rained across the ruins. The hunters screamed in despair, their pride crumbling into ash. But the enemy did not flee, not yet. Their flagship descended, a monstrosity larger than mountains, its hull carved with scars of endless wars, its weapons bristling with fire. Its commander stepped forth, a creature taller than any soldier, its body plated with black armor, its voice booming across the battlefield. "You are nothing, human. The fleet will not serve you. It will be mine." The relic flared in response, its voice calm. "Denial. Command is sealed." The commander bared its fangs, rage. Shaking the ground, then it charged. The explorer met its gaze, his knees weak, yet his spirit unbroken. The relic's light surged into his body, lifting him, energy coursing through every vein. His voice thundered with power, not his own. "Stand down." The command struck like a wave. The enemy commander staggered, its armor cracking beneath unseen force. It roared in fury, swinging its weapon, but the relic answered with a shield of light. The blow struck and scattered like dust in the wind. The hunter fell to its knees, disbelief etched into its monstrous face. Around them the battle raged, hunter ships falling like broken toys, the Black Fleet cutting through them with merciless precision. Every strike exact, every maneuver flawless. The relic's calm voice guiding the human's commands. His fear no longer control but fuel, his will shaping the storm. And slowly the tide broke. The hunters realized their doom. Their roars turned to screams, their claws to trembling, their ships to ashes. The enemy commander fell at last, crushed beneath the weight of the relic's power, its final cry lost in the roar of destruction. Silence followed, broken only by the hum of the relic and the distant rumble of burning wreckage. The human collapsed to his knees, his body trembling, his breath ragged. Yet the relic whispered gently, command secured, threat neutralized. His eyes lifted to the sky where the Black Fleet hovered, vast and terrible, waiting in silence, his word. He thought of Earth, of humanity still blind to the storm, and fear gripped him again, not of the hunters, not of the relic, but of what came next, for he now held power beyond imagination, and with it a responsibility heavier than any world. He whispered softly, though the fleet heard him. "Not conquerors, not tyrants, protectors, only protectors." The relic glowed in solemn agreement, directive confirmed. "The Black Fleet serves to guard." The words settled over him like chains, yet also like wings. His choice shaping the future of more than his kind alone. As dawn broke over the ruins, light spilling across a shattered stone, The explorer rose weak yet unbroken. The relics hummed steady at his side, the fleet above waiting for his voice. Hunters scattered and broken across the stars, and though the weight of command threatened to crush him, he knew one truth that would carry him forward. He was human, fragile yet unyielding, chosen not by strength but by defiance. And that defiance had awakened a legend. The galaxy would remember this night, the night. The Black Fleet returned. The night a human stood against the dark and did not fall.